Nurse Blake Lynch, and you're not just Nurse Blake. I mean, this is an incredible story because you are from Florida.
Yep.
You are a nurse doing amazing things, taking care of patients in hospitals. But cut to now, you are literally making thousands of people laugh on comedy tours. So I think many of us would like to know, how does one go from being a nurse then to being a stand-up comic?
That's a great question. I'm still trying to figure it out. No, I never thought I'd do comedy, to get into nursing. I never thought I'd ever be performing or on stage or anything. But I've always, I guess, been funny. I've always liked humor and watching comics. And with my patients, I would always try to make them laugh, no matter how shitty they were feeling or what was going on with them. And I realized that not only patients need humor, but also staff and other nurses and healthcare workers. And I just started doing little shows, and nurses like to come out and party on party buses and drink and laugh, so it's perfect.
So there was a time, though, where there was one day, you were like having a really rough day, you're like, I've had enough, I want to scream. But you're like, no, I'm gonna open TikTok and Instagram and have my outlet. How did that play a role into kind of this transition? Although, for the record, still a nurse, but also a comedian.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was driving home from work, 2017.
Okay.
Couldn't breathe, heart pounding really fast. I was having a panic attack. But I didn't realize I was having a panic attack, so I called 911. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. And they're like, I'm like, I can't breathe. They're like, no, you're talking.
Like you're
breathing.
Right.
And I was tired and stressed from working as a nurse, and I just needed an outlet. And I just started making videos on Facebook, and they went viral.
Oh, so we started with Facebook.
We started with Facebook.
Okay.
This is 2017, so a while ago, before TikTok,
But then I feel like things really took off with TikTok because we know that people love quick, witty, fast, scrollable situations. How did that play into this?
TikTok, Instagram, and I realized that nurses don't only like my stuff online. Like, nurses like to come out together and have an experience.
Okay.
And a lot of time nurses don't get that. They don't get that at nursing conferences or really any other time besides getting drunk at brunch, after a night shift on mimosas.
So nurses are a bunch of partiers, is what you're saying?
So let me tell you, when I do a show at a venue, we break the alcohol sales record.
Hey.
Nurses love to throw back. They always bring in extra
deserve
Tito's.
Those hours, those long shifts, cranky patients.
They bring in extra Tito's and White Claws.
Hey, there we go. But still, how did we get from Insta TikTok famous to then you were like, you know what, I think I can do this the greats, the Wanda Sykes and all the others.
Joan Rivers.
Yes, so iconic.
So I was invited to do nurse night at a baseball game. So this is the Red Sox. Had a nurse night. Boston Red Sox, Fenway Park. I was like, sure, I'll say I'm going and invite nurses. Over 10,000 nurses came.
Wow.
Largest group event in Fenway Park history. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna do my own little events. And I started doing my own. So that really showed me that nurses are gonna come out in big numbers.
I love that. It's a really supportive tribe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, nurses go through so much shit.
Mm-hmm.
We get shit on. We get hit on, and not in the sexy way. We get hit.
They'll hit you.
They'll hit you. Not they'll hit on you and they'll hit you. Especially if you're wearing figs, I guess. And we're figs. We look sexy in figs. But yeah, so it's so fun. I love seeing nurses of all different ages come out. You'll have a nursing student who's 20 laughing their ass off next to a retired nurse in their 80s. And that's what's so cool and so special to me.
And I know you've talked about this because you said that there's this weird misconception that people think that people become nurses because they didn't make it through medical school or they couldn't become a doctor. Not the case, obviously. Nurses are needed. We love our nurses. But what was the motivation for you?
Both my parents are in healthcare.
Okay.
So honestly, my dad, respiratory therapist, my mom, medical device sales, big boobs. Sales reps.
Oh my God.
And fake. Big and fake. And so it was nursing and healthcare was just all my trajectory. I think being a gay male from Florida, you work at Disney and you become a nurse.
We're going to talk about Florida, but let's go back to the beginning. As Hillary
We're going to talk about Florida?
Yes.
PTSD.
I know. So you obviously, I would love to hear your coming out journey because I know, unfortunately, which I want you to talk about, it led you to conversion therapy, which, as we know, is something that should be illegal in every state. It's something that is being brought up again in many states, which is insane in 2023. But tell me about your kind of coming out and then getting through that.
Yeah, so my parents were out of town. I was 15. I was getting babysat by my older cousin. I was 15. I was getting babysat. And she saw me make out with a boy in the driveway.
Oh, wow.
And she had some questions for me about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm gay. And she decided to tell our parents. You know, her parents. He told my parents.
Rule number one, not the story to tell. That is your story to tell.
That's my story to tell.
Okay.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, it's my story to tell. I didn't have a choice.
Right.
She told my story. And the next day, I was out of my high school. My parents cleaned out my locker. I was right across the street at this counselor's office by some religious priest or pastor in Orlando. And I was sent through gay conversion therapy for about 4 years, from 15 to 18. It didn't work.
Right.
It didn't work.
How did you, I mean, do you have a relationship with your family at this point? Or?
It's a good question. I do not speak to my parents.
Got it.
I do speak with my brother, straight, white, cisgender male, younger brother. Super cool, super accepting. I love him so much. And my grandmother I'm really close with.
Oh, good.
But my parents,
They just haven't
talk to you right now.
come around.
Yeah.
Conversion therapy is something that can be extremely detrimental for people. It takes people years to, well, sometimes a lifetime to process what goes on during that time. You said it was 4 years.
Yeah. So, and it was awful. I wasn't there like every day over 4 years. It's like a summer program in camp. I was one of the youngest members there, or attendees. My parents would have to come with me. I was sent to multiple high schools. Whenever a high school find out I was gay, they'd move me to different high schools. And I don't think it hit me until I was later on in life, my late 20s, when I had my panic attack, actually in 2017. You know, this is years later after that. I felt all that trauma. You know, as a comedian, we love to laugh, we love to have dark humor, but a lot of times we laugh to hide things that are going on in our lives. And now I'm able to talk about it and laugh about it and talk about it in my show. But yeah, it didn't hit me until way later. You know, that trauma that I had kept like always just smiling behind and laughing behind, it hit me really, really hard.
And I think that we know that when queer youth are not accepted for who they are, and especially if they are not accepted by their parents, they can become homeless and they can lead really traumatic lives. How are you able to still, unfortunately be turned away by your family, go through conversion therapy, but then still make, a successful being out of yourself?
Yeah, I just realized, be myself. I actually, when I was in nursing school, this is back in 2013, I went to go donate blood, but I was turned away for being gay because the outdated FDA policy on men who have sex with men. And I realized that I wanted to change that. So I started a little organization, Facebook page called Ban for Life, where we got the FDA to end the lifetime ban. Still can't donate blood though. After the FDA ended the lifetime ban, there's like...
I know, it became a thing
year
again
deferral and there, it was like,
Yeah.
You couldn't have sex for a year, and
Yeah.
then you couldn't have sex for 3 months, and then you can't be on like PrEP or so many other reasons. But I think through that I realized like I have power, like people will listen to me. The fact that I kind of, gave myself a voice and was just myself. And I realized that, hey, if my parents don't support me, there's a lot of people online, that support me. There's a lot of other family members and friends who have become my family that support me. So I think you really have to search for that group in your new family.
That's chosen family for you.
Yeah, chosen
Absolutely.
family, yeah.
You still live in Florida, which as we know is one of the trickiest states to be in the US. If you are an LGBTQ person, if you're a trans youth, it can be really tricky. How do you navigate? I mean, you do travel a lot now with the show, but still having roots there.
I do have to say it's hard and challenging, but it's hopeful to see the amount of activism that comes out of Florida to really see people fight for what's right and LGBTQ plus rights is really inspiring, and it inspires me to keep going. When it comes to the drag bans that were happening across the country, I do a big event called NurseCon at Sea where we do a nursing conference on a cruise ship out of Florida, and what I did is I bring drag queens on. So whenever I can stick it back to Florida, I love to do that, but it's where I'm born and raised, it's where my family is, my chosen family is. So I won't give up on Florida. I have a lot of hope.
I love that.
And shout out to all the activists that haven't given up on Florida.
And then, you mentioned that cruise. So that's happening this year in April.
In April.
And it goes to Mexico.
Yeah, 3,500 nurses. Whole ship of wild...
Do you have to be a nurse to go?
No.
No, but it will be a lot of nurses. Yeah.
We do a lot of education, so continuing education. And you could learn and drink... What is it? Pina colada.
Pina colada, that sounds
Strawberry
delicious.
daiquiri, Miami Vice.
And then this comedy tour that you are on, you're gonna be back in LA in May, which I love. But
Netflix is a joke.
Before that, New Zealand. Australia. So, I mean, that tells me that there are a lot of people that are following you and that really love this comedic lens that you're bringing to your experience as a nurse. I mean, what's a show like? Who comes? Like, what's the, you know?
It's 2 hours.
Okay.
It's insane. Like, when I go to a venue that I've never been before, they're like, this is gonna be stupid. This is gonna be like a TED Talk. And then after my show's over, they're like, holy shit. The bar killed it. Your audience is so loud. I had one nurse, she had 80 years old, flash the audience.
Oh,
She's like,
my goodness.
I'm retired. And it's just so fun to see nurses like let loose. You know, even if they don't like me, they're gonna come out and have a good time with their staff and coworkers. I did a show in Denver. And that night I did my show, we had over 2,000 nurses there.
That's amazing.
But hospitals were paying double and triple time because they were short staffed because
you created
everyone was at the show.
You created that. I
did.
love it.
So I said, if you have an emergency, like the night of my show, don't go to the hospital, just come to the theater.
And then
because that's where all the
take
nurses
care of
are.
you. That's incredible.
But I think it's a testament to nurses need camaraderie.
Yeah.
They love being surrounded by each other in a safe space. And that no matter where you live or work as a nurse, we all get the same jokes and go through the same shit. It's very easy to think that you're alone, you know, we're burnt out, we're stressed, we don't have enough staff, and it's very, you get very lonely.
For sure.
And I think just having that and having the audience come from, whether I'm in Europe or I'm in Canada or I'm touring in Australia, it's so cool to see the audiences be able to laugh and relate to the same shit.
This is gonna be a good time of year for Australia too.
It's gonna be World Pride.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what
gonna
I was
say.
like putting the dots
know.
together. I was like, is that when that is? That's gonna be huge.
My very first Pride was actually here in LA.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna be amazing. And then you mentioned Joan Rivers, of course. But like, were you into stand-up? Were comedians your thing? Did you ever watch? 'Cause for me, I'm gonna be straight up with you. It makes me very antsy. Because I'm constantly like, they're gonna call me, and I'm like, I will sit in the back and don't look at me. Like, but were you drawn to that kind of stuff?
I loved comedy. I always watched the specials, you know, on HBO.
Yeah.
You know, Joan Rivers, I got to see her before she passed
Wow,
away. She performed at the Hard Rock in Orlando. And I just love fast comedy. I love witty comedy. I love gay comedy. Even though a lot of people think I'm just going to talk about nursing stuff, a lot of like just my gay life and being gay in Orlando and as a nurse, it all comes up in my show. But it's super high energy, interactive. There's always these straight guys that come because they're partners in
a nurse, yeah.
And my note to tell if I'm funny or not is if I could get them to laugh. And a lot of times they do. And they love the show. They're like, man, you fucking love it. Yeah. You're gonna get me laid. You're gonna get me laid. You know.
That's actually a really funny transition because you just patted me on the arm. I just got my vaccine.
So on this side?
Yes. No, it's totally fine. But it leads me to a real question that I want to talk to you about because there is, we do at GLAAD, we're constantly doing reports and studies on the community. Levels of acceptance, just like how people think about things. Yeah. There is this weird thing that people think COVID is over, that people don't need to, get their vaccines, get their shots anymore because it's 2024. Clearly not the case. We're seeing a big resurgence. Yep. From your perspective, how important is it that, especially the LGBTQ community, take their shots seriously?
For sure. Follow the guidance by the CDC, follow the guidance by your doctor. A lot of hospitals are also instituting masks again in the hospitals for staff and visitors. So take your health very, very seriously, for sure. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, there's a lot of great organizations out there that, serve the LGBT plus community. I have a great clinic I go to in Orlando that's great. It's actually one of my classmates from nursing school started Harmony Healthcare there. So he sees me and is my provider. So it's really cool.
So if one, whether they're a nurse or not, would like to come see you on an upcoming, stuff, how do we get tickets? Do we go to your website or what's the best way?
Nurseblake.com.
Nurseblake.com. And then, like I said, if you're in LA, May.
Netflix is a joke.
May 4th.
May 4th.
Yes.
Bourbon Room.
That's going to be incredible. I love that.
Are you going to come?
I'm going to be there,
Yay! Cool.
I'll be there.
Perfect. I love it. And by the way, I love GLAAD.
Thank you.
You guys do such great work.
I think, with your story, I read about you and I was like, this person seems like destined to work with us in this mission because I was like, you have experience, unfortunately, with a lot of the things that which is insane to think in 2023, are still, speaking out against today. So, yeah. Well, it's so nice to meet you.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.